Hey everybody, Rodman here for episode 1 of Extreme Desert Survival. So, before I start, I need to sort of analyze the terrain. Sort of pick where I want to live permanently. Alright, so I think I more or less have a grapple on a strategy. So I'm going to get going. I'm going to start mining out here. So initially, let's go ahead and stockpile this food here. I'm not going to use the caravan trick often, but right now I will, only because I need to very quickly move this stuff to one stockpile, because time is of the essence. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I am going to create a little cave shelter thing. I guess I'm not exactly trying to describe it, but it's to keep me cool enough to be able to work on trying to get air conditioning. And then I'm also going to set a work restriction, at least temporarily. That sort of sucks. And I apologize to my pawn for how bad that is. Alright, now with this additional steel, let's go ahead and wall off. Stop wandering. Wall off this stuff. And the reason for doing this is so that I can get a little bit cooler while I amass the resources it takes to refrigerate myself. I know that sounds strange, but I literally mean refrigerate. Alright, so we should have enough for this section of the base. Alright, so now this cave area is indoors compared to the outdoors out there, and it should, as a result, cool down a little. So I'm going to get back to mining. At this point, what we're going to want is we're going to want a good old wind turbine. And we are going to want a cooler. And then additionally, we are going to want to have a certain sized room. We don't want to include everything, so it's going to look something like that. So we're going to need to amass the the steel up to be able to accommodate for that construction. So so the reason why I did this is, as you can see, the temperature indoors is 113 compared to the temperature outside, which is 130. Let's go ahead and see if I can't. I can't remove the roof over anything nearby. The idea there was possibly being able to mine a little bit faster with not too much of a detriment to my my cool temperature that I gain from mining indoors. Alright, so this takes about 230 or so steel. So there's two ways of going about this. There is the rush to research hydroponics route, and then there is the trying to put potatoes into the soil route. I'm going to try the hydroponics route. But if you want to try it the other way around, feel free. I'm not necessarily saying that this is the only way. This is just the way I'm attempting it. And I just wanted to make that known. But surely there are multiple solutions to this challenge. Alright, so we just hit serious heat stroke, but we don't pass out for a bit. We're not going to pass out until we hit 65 or so. And the inside of this cave is pretty cool. So if you're wondering why there isn't like insane heat wave mechanics added, it's mostly because I guess we still need more steel. It's mostly because last time in the Sea Ice Survival, all the crazy heat that we had actually probably made it less enjoyable to watch because most of the raiders were perishing due to the unbelievable cold temperatures, and I'd rather actually have it where I survive because I fight my way out, not environmentally kill everything. Alright, so now we have a refrigerated room here. Now that it's refrigerated, I want to put some nice things in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, let's say, a standing lamp. I want to set up a stool. I want to set up a steel table. And I want to set up a research bench and a horseshoe pin. And eventually, oh, and a bed. I do need a bed, don't I? Let's go ahead and put a steel bed in there as well. Now, ideally, I would wait for my heat stroke to subside, but I'm impatient. Let's try to get the bed going. Because really, oh, a nice additional cavern. Really soon we're going to need the sleep. All right. So there's the research. And as I said, I'm going the route of trying to get hydroponics as soon as possible, rather than to try to grow potatoes in the really crummy soil. Alright, so now we have a good bed. I'm going to go ahead and unrestrict, which allows him to get some shut-eye. So, research. I'm going to do batteries and then hydroponics. I'm going to rush that research. Actually, maybe I'll do it the other way around. Research, hydroponics first, and then batteries. Now, if you're curious if just planting plants out there was the way to go, let's try that too. I will drop a few plants and see if that makes any semblance of a difference. In my experience, and I did attempt this a few times, going the potatoes on the stony soil route was inefficient, slow, ultimately bad decision, survival-wise. So I am not going to go down that route. And the reason is, potatoes take longer than rice to grow. I'm growing in really terrible soil. They are growth restricted also by the fact that I have terrible temperatures. So there's a lot of little individual reasons that eventually add up to growing in soil kind of sucks. Now, I will say that I might end up growing some stuff in this soil, trees or things that won't grow hydroponically, but that's obviously not something I need to worry about just yet. Alright, so before I really continue on the research path, I do want to get myself a club. I don't want to be defenseless for the first fight. So I'm going to crank out a club. I think that's probably more useful than a knife. A knife is good at bleeding the enemies, but a club can knock them unconscious and allow me to recruit them if they're any good. So now it's a well-lit environment, it's cool temperature, and I am researching as fast as I can. So the idea I have for the base is to live in this area, treat this area as a kill box, and then force enemies that want to come through this way or this way to go around into the kill box. So choke off these points and force enemies to come all the way around and up through. Yes, sappers and the like I'll have to account for, but that's at least the idea. So this time I'm just trying to get the research done. So this is a pretty good one way to see where good growth spots are. Because if you're going to grow outdoors, you're basically going to have to air condition it, use a grow light, and wall it off. So for most bang for your buck, you want a spot that you can actually grow a decent amount of stuff in. And sometimes it's hard to spot that stony soil. This around here wouldn't be terrible, but again, that's not where I want the base to be. There is no mods like the shovel mod, which allows you to shovel resources around. I'm not going to rely on this steel anymore. I'm going to rely on some of this steel. And the reason for is, yes, I get more, obviously get more heat stroke when I'm mining out here. But in the sunlight, it will be a lot faster. So I'm about a little more than half done with hydroponics. And I think I'm not even going to bother to try to get hydroponics without battery research. The likelihood of losing crops and the like is pretty high until I have batteries. So I'll just be doing the research, putting in the time. And I can't neglect my pawn and prevent him from doing things like recreation, you know. That would run the risk of going berserk, even though I'm sanguine. So as you can see here, the potato plants have grown 9%. Their growth rate's about 65%. In an ideal scenario, the growth rate of these plants are only ever going to go up to 88% when there is no temperature growth multiplier. And that's why I don't even think it's worth doing anything but hydroponics. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. You never know. You can't know these things, you know? Alright, so we're almost done with the hydroponic research. And I think hydroponically I'll only need 3 trays initially. That's been true in the past. So if I look at my bio, I've obviously leveled up a little bit in construction. Haven't had to melee anyone, but I foresee that will be required soon. And just cranking ahead on the beautiful amounts of research that I'm trying to get done. Next up is battery. But what I think I'm going to do is when it gets light out, I'm going to try to do some mining. Because obviously if I want hydroponics, I'll need a lot of power. I'll need to generate at least 3K during the day, which takes some work. Now, as far as the world's concerned, we're near but not on the equator. Solar is definitely going to be useful, especially to offset the hydroponic grow light power requirement. With that said, initially I might not bother to try to do hydroponics. All right, so now it's kind of light out. Let's try to get some mining done. And this is why I want to mine outdoors, because obviously it is considerably faster. We are just slicing through this, and basically I'll just mine until I have some heat stroke or hyperthermia. And I'll prioritize research. It's still very, very important that we get a lot of progress done research-wise. Now what I can do is I can put the batteries here temporarily. Just use this marble wall overhang. So we're about 2/3 done with that. Looking at the wildlife, there's really nothing to hunt. Initially, you start off with 3 iguanas on the map. Yes, from time to time there will be iguanas that kind of zone in on the map, but it would not be. They are not a good, reliable source of calories. You're not going to be able to just hunt iguanas and not farm. Farming is absolutely essential to survival. Alright, so we're almost having the batteries done, and then we really need to make some quick progress to get hydroponics up and running. And initially I'm going to do a minimum amount required for a hydroponics layout. Just a teeny little temperature controlled hydroponics room, more or less. Alright, so we have batteries. Let's drop 2 of them down and go ahead and build a roof over that. Alright, and now, as for production, obviously you can't really build in soft sand. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the base back here, like that. I haven't really given it a lot of thought as to the true layout, but this is sort of the hydroponic layout I'll want. And then, like I said, for now, it's going to be a minimum temperature-controlled hydroponics room. And all, you know, at all costs. Let's see. I'm going to just steel door it here, and then temperature it here. And we'll obviously need a lot more power generation than we're currently getting. That's for sure. Alright, that's enough relaxing socially. Start laying this out. Alright, so looking at that, I can go ahead and safely lay out one more turbine. And here's our first raid. They're going to prepare a while, so I'm not going to worry about them for a bit. But it does help to see what they're wearing. So, cloth toque. Ooh, I don't know if that's the right choice. And a club. And I have to watch my own Heatstroke here. So I put the farm somewhat close to all this steel so that I can utilize the steel while I work. But now I'm starting to get minor Heatstroke. So I'm going to definitely hop into a cooler environment. This guy might not even make it to me. He seems to be preparing a little too long. Oh, here he goes. We'll see how he does. Fortunately, the heat stroke that he's suffering is going to make it easier for me to take him down. And he definitely needs to be taken care of now. He's going to start setting things on fire. Now we are a brawler, and looking at him, he's very bad at melee. He's also not really a pawn we'd want. He has decent construction, but that's something Omni already has covered, and he's nimble, neurotic. Yeah, I mean, not winning any awards here for good pawn or anything. All right, do a little bit of eating. Now I've ratty apparel, but we ditch the toque and do a little self-heal. It's not likely to be, yeah, it's not very good quality, but it's better than nothing. Alright, so it's spacecraft. Let's go ahead and get that fast. The components are going to be definitely very, very useful. Alright, this is the one of the few times I'm going to actually caravan things. Alright, let's go ahead and get rid of bed rest. We have no time for any of that jazz. As much as I'd like to give him time to do horseshoes, there are some pretty serious time constraints. Alright, so what I want to do is get the walls here done, which is easier said than done. I also have to keep an eye on my heat stroke. As you can see, the pawns here don't die very quickly. The heat stroke isn't a fast way to go. Not even a little bit. Alright. Let's go ahead and allow for a little bit of non-construction. Relaxing socially. Get a minimum amount of rec in. And a little bit of sleep. Alright, so there the first pawn, as you can see, has died. Just so that I don't have to watch it rot. A grave is in order. Now, as you can see, I'm just about ready to have my farm up and running. My minimalistic farm. I just definitely need more power. So what I need to do is I need to run the power a little closer. And then rice. Now the real trick here is making sure I don't deplete all of my battery reserves. So while I sow things, I'm going to turn off the grow light. I'm also not really generating any power right now. That's something else I'm going to have to work on. So the next project is this wind turbine. And I think what I'll do is I'll put 4 of these in. I think that will be my wind turbine total. Making sure to be working on one at a time. It's a benefit. Alright, and now, let's see if we can't get a little bit of grow lights going. So these 2 turbines, I'm going to need some more components as well. It's not just about the steel. Alright, and there's plenty of components out here for me to profit off of. Looks like the grow light is draining the batteries. Shut that off for now. So, I have my rice almost caught up to my potatoes for growth rate already. Just to sort of point out how dreadfully inefficient using the soil is. Now, I'm not saying I'll never do it, because if I'm being flatly honest, sometimes it will be faster, but I'm just saying it might not be a wise idea to rely that heavily on soil. It's pretty inefficiently slow. Now, as much as I'd like to be able to sleep in, there is so much work that I feel the need to do here. Going to make sure I mine everything, make minimum trips. As you can see with the light levels going up, I am slowly starting to mine a little bit faster. And that was my last meal, which is, you can see the importance of making sure I grow this rice. I think I have one more meal in my inventory. Nope, no more meals. That was my last one. Really, truly my last one. Alright, then the next thing I'm going to need to make is an electric stove. While this stuff grows. And I should also put a dead conduit on it as well. So I can turn that off when I want to. Bills. Let's go ahead and cook Simple Meal Forever. And we're going to be a little hungry but it's not going to kill us. We're not going to die of a catatonically starving. Alright, so that was episode 1. Your episode 1 might look different. If you tried the soil route, I'd love to hear how it goes for you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback of any sort, drop me a line. And before I end this episode, I'd also like to say that the Patreon and community-driven series will be coming out soon, and I'm going to have an announcement about that in just a day or two, so stay tuned. So thank you for watching, and adios.